Good morning, Claire.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. All right, so can you give us a 60-second précis for people listening as to what we're about to talk about, please?
Sure. In 2018, I left London. I was feeling burnt out, and I decided I would move to North America and explore the wilds and wilderness and go hiking and connect with the outdoors. I was on a hike, and do you want me to... Yeah. So I was on a hike, a day hike, where I lost my footing on some boulders and fell 25 feet, and I shattered my pelvis and I couldn't move. So I was lying on my back, and I didn't have phone signal. I hadn't told anyone where I was going, and I was out there for 4 days.
And that can happen so easily, can't it? Because for people who've never been out to that part of the world, I have a few times, you are in the desert very, very quickly. And although there are people relatively nearby, because you've only been walking, they might not come past your particular trail for days or weeks, ever.
Exactly. And then what made it worse was that I'd actually gone off the trail by about a mile, which I didn't realize until after I'd fallen. So there was a part of me initially that thought, well, that's fine. So I'll wait here and someone will be walking this trail. But then when I looked at my GPS and thought, I'm not even on that trail. So that was that last little strand of hope that just completely went.
And of course, it's very hot, and it gets much hotter very quickly. Very
hot, yeah. The heat was the most difficult thing for me to deal with every day.
It's incredible, isn't it? Because you hear about stories of misadventure, and their voyages to the South Seas or wherever. But you just went for a walk. I mean, we can call it a hike because it gives it mitigates it a little bit more. But you went for a walk.
I went for a walk. I mean, it was a hike. It was a moderate trail. It was meant to be like 4 hours in and out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so you're back before tea time.
Exactly. Yeah, I'd planned to be back for tea.
And how come you were there in the first place? Tell us about these two cats that you were allegedly looking after.
Yeah, I was basically I'd gone to Canada initially, and then some old friends of mine who are living in Joshua Tree in California said, "Hey, we're going away for 3 weeks. We need someone to come look after our cats. Do you want to come down?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll come down and do that. I love cats. Get to hike. It was perfect."
And so you walk along the trail, or you're off the beaten path, as it were, and then you slip on a boulder. Can you take us through do you remember the moment that you lost your footing?
Oh yeah. I'm off the trail without realizing it. I come to this really high stack of boulders. They're everywhere in the desert. I realize I'm going to have to climb over it to continue the path that I was on. And it was when I was at the top, I'm trying to sort of find my footing, and then I just start to slide. So I've lost my footing, and it all happened in slow motion. And yet it was only a few seconds. And I didn't know where I was going to land. I just remember my brain going, you're going to get hurt. This is going to hurt. And then just no. And then off the edge.
So it was, and I'm not trying to demean it in any way or belittle it in any way, but it wasn't a cliff edge. It was an innocuous pile of boulders.
Yeah, it was, exactly. Yeah. It wasn't like I was just cautiously picking my way over the edge of a cliff.
Yeah,
it was, to me, it felt very natural. When you're in the desert, you clamber over boulder stacks all the time. Yeah. Yeah.
And in many ways, you may have been a little more careful had it been a sort of a knife edge situation.
I think that was it. I think I felt really comfortable, and with being comfortable comes complacency, and so I wasn't feeling any sense of risk. So, I think when you feel like, oh, this is really dangerous, you are more cautious.
Yeah, because boulders have a friendly feel about them. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
They are quite friendly because you can make them as dangerous or as sort of, as I said before, innocuous as you like, because you have options, don't you?
This is it. You find your own way. I mean, I've been clambering over rocks since I was a kid. It's just, you just clamber up. You find your foothold. You carry on.
So you crash to the ground, or you stop eventually. Are you sliding, or are you tumbling, or what?
I slid for the first 10 feet and then dropped.
Right.
For the remaining 15 feet.
Okay.
And then when I hit the ground, I heard this crack,
Oh.
and my pelvis shattered. And I remember thinking at the time the word shattered, and when you've shattered your pelvis, like there's no question about it, and your hinge is effectively broken. So I couldn't sit up, and I couldn't get off my elbows, so I'm flat on my back, and I couldn't move anything below the waist.
Now, as bad as that is, and it is awful. Yeah. It's not the end of the world. I wouldn't imagine you think it's the end of the world. It's potentially the end of my life. You wouldn't think that, would you? You think, okay, I'm in trouble here. What an idiot. Ow, my goodness me, that hurts beyond belief. Ow, 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 ow. But then when did it begin to become a little more patently evident that things could be life-threatening?
Well, first of all, that was exactly my mindset. Like, you've just nailed it. The whole process of this is really painful, but I can move my toes. I know I'm not paralyzed. I just need to find a way to get out of here. But it was the fact that, oh, I haven't got any phone signal. Because just immediately, we're so reliant on phones that even though in my mind I knew there wasn't signal and I didn't think I was going to need my phone, you sort of think you can rely on it. So no phone signal. Okay, I'm in big trouble. Oh, I'm not on the trail. I'm in big trouble. Did I tell anyone where I was going? No. Oh, I'm screwed.
Have I got any water?
Yeah, I've got enough water to last me a day. That was all I'd packed.
Have you got anything else? Any other supplies?
I had a little bit of food, and I had my hiking stick. Well, I say it was mine. I'd borrowed my friend's hiking stick, and I almost didn't take it with me. And sunscreen, just things you would take with you just for the day.
But then quiet desperation started to creep in.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. Was it half an hour, a couple of hours?
I'd say after the first hour, once I kind of was trying to find a way to get out and realize I didn't have one, then I started to feel that sort of rising panic and going, I don't know what to do. Like, what can I do? And I thought, if I don't make it out of here, I want people to know what's happened. I want my family to know what's happened.
That seems quite quick into the whole 4 days. Within an hour or 2 hours, you're already having those thoughts.
Just the reality of the situation. I mean, when you hike, you realize that this can happen to people. I knew this happened to people in the national park. People died out there. And I just put myself in the worst position possible. So the reality was immediate. I knew what I was up against.
Tell us about the first video that you made on your phone, please, Claire.
Sure. The first video was made on my phone, and it was more of a, I've been an idiot. I've fallen. This is what's happened. I'm really scared. I don't know what to do. And then as soon as I made that video, I realized, well, no one, even if someone found my phone, you can't. It's very hard to get into somebody's phone. How would they even know I'd left a message? Also, I wanted to preserve the phone battery in case there was some kind of miracle and I could get a signal. So I had my digital camera, so then I recorded a new message on that. And it was, I didn't want to record a goodbye message, but I didn't want it to not be a goodbye message. So it's this kind of mixture of, this is the reality, this is the situation I'm in. Also, I love you all, really trying to kind of find a balance and, struggling with it. I'm not good at wearing my emotions on my sleeve, even in these situations.
I mean, we're very fortunate because we get to talk to lots of people who've done lots of amazing things all over the world, sometimes in space. We've talked to astronauts. And it's bizarre they come to our radio studio that looks like this every single day and tell us their story, because this actually happened to you. This isn't a work of fiction. 2 years on, how sort of palpable is it within you?
It's honestly changed the way that I approach everything in my life.
Right.
It always sounds really cheesy to be like, I don't, I take every day as a gift, but I do, and every experience feels like a bonus. Like I had come to a point of acceptance where I didn't think I'd make it, so this is all a bonus.
It's so bizarre because it's not what you wanted to happen when you went to Canada for a couple of years to get away from the rat race and then to California to go on these hikes. But in the end, it's not the way to do it, but it's done the job, hasn't it?
It fast-tracked exactly what I'd hoped. I'd wanted to get away from all this sort of fear and insecurity and anxiety that I was feeling, but I thought it might just start a slow process of that for me. Instead, it just fast-tracked it in the most bizarre way possible. And so now I sort of feel like, well, there's nothing really anything to be afraid of anymore, because what's the worst that can happen? It's already happened.
You say that, and other people have said that, and I've said that in the past, but does fear creep back in anyhow? Is that just inevitable because of life?
Of course it does, yeah. I would hate anyone to think that I'm saying I'm completely immune to fear. I feel all the same fears as before, but I know that I now get to control them and not let those fears control me and the decisions I make.
Now, you shared with us off the air that there are some videos that you haven't made public. What was the decision process there?
There's a lot, it's probably about half an hour of footage all in. And, it was not necessarily something I ever planned for anyone to watch, maybe apart from my parents and some close friends. But originally, I did do a program and offered a few clips because I think people were confused about what it was like out there. But most of those I keep close just to me.
We're only 2.5 hours into the story. We've got 3.5 days to go. How do you want to walk us through that? Do it in any way you'd like.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was a weird process of going through all these emotions of being angry at myself and being really sad, and then being in denial about what was happening, and then through to acceptance. But the first night that I was out there was terrifying, because realizing that I've fallen and had an accident is one thing, but then to be out there at night, like I'd never and ever anticipated I'd be lying out in the desert injured at night. Like, that was a terrifying prospect. I knew it was rattlesnake season as well, and I'm at ground level. So the whole first night I kept imagining I was seeing snakes coming out of the crevices in the rocks. So I didn't really sleep very much. And then by the time the second morning rolled round, I was like, oh, thank God. Well, that's over. At least I've made it through. Then now someone's going to come by and find me, and I'll get out of here.
So it was the renewed optimism the next day.
Absolutely.
With the sunrise came more hope.
Exactly.
Simple as that. It's funny what night and day does to us, isn't it?
Honestly, something about fear in the dark. It's just escalated.
Always.
Yeah.
Right, the night terrors, regardless whether you're in your bed or wherever you were.
Exactly.
Because I keep picturing you down a crevice, but you weren't. You were on the ground because the boulders were they were off the ground, as it were.
So I was basically in this little circle of these really high rocks. So you had to really be looking directly down on me to see me.
Right.
But I was flat on the ground.
So you would have to be airborne for you to even know.
Yeah.
Did you shout help? Did you scream for help?
Yeah, I would shout and scream for help for quite the first couple of hours of the morning before the sun hit me, because it was really exhausting being in the heat. So I would just kind of shout and scream. I kind of knew it was futile, but you sort of feel like you have to do it, just in case somehow somebody out there was for a early morning hike and they heard something on the breeze. Like, there was these little threads of hope you had to hold on to.
So did you? So you paced your cries for help almost?
Yes, yeah. You kind of have to. Like, it's thirsty work, and it's tiring. And so when that heat hits, once it got to my face and my upper body, it just saps all the energy out of you. You just everything just becomes about fighting the heat.
So that's sort of day 2, sunrise 1, and then it gets into late afternoon. Did you have did your circadian rhythm? Did they help you to sort of figure out what was going on with the day? Did you have a sense of the day?
Sort of, yeah. It was easy to see where the sun was and sort of where the shadows were as to what time of the day it was. But that second day, I'd also run out of water. And during this time, I decided on the first day I would collect my urine, just because I didn't want to kind of be lying in it and also making the smell and attracting animals. So I'd been collecting it in my empty bottle. So on day 2, when I'd run out of water, I had to start drinking urine. It was just a really immediate decision. Like, okay,
all right,
yeah.
And so night falls. Did you sleep on the second night?
I slept a bit more because I was exhausted, but still that whole thing of waking up and being very aware of, being vulnerable to the desert life.
I mean, they do say that you're more vulnerable if whatever's around fears you as a threat, but if you're not, they sort of tend to almost understand. Or am I being too sort of...
I wondered it's interesting, because I wondered if that's the case, because, I mean, I didn't encounter anything dangerous, and I thought I would because I knew there was rattlesnake season.
Well, they must have been around.
They were around,
yeah. But
they left me alone, and I think maybe there was just an element of, I mean, the only thing I did see were hawks that would be circling, and it was slightly ominous, but I mean, they weren't bothering me.
So we're day 3 now.
Day 3.
So sunrise again.
Yeah.
Tell us about your emotions then.
Day 3, I was starting to... I think I'd reached that point of accepting that this was seriously bad, that no one was going to come and find me, and that was the first time I allowed myself to cry. I'm not a crier anyway, so that was kind of, for me, that feels pretty normal. But that was the moment, I think, where I allowed myself to realize, this, you might die, and this is going to be it, and you're going to kind of watch it happen. It's going to be slow.
Did you really? So that was a moment of absolute real acceptance that you might die, or you might know you were going to die.
That I was going to die.
Right.
That's where I was.
And how long did you cry for? What kind of cry was it?
It was just more of like a giving in.
Right.
So I was recording a message to my family, and I just started to cry, and I think it was just the idea that I wouldn't see them again, and just all the things that I was trying not to think about, which was, not seeing anyone again, not having done the things in my life that I was so looking forward to doing, and just all kind of rolled over me, and I just, I was just crying and sobbing.
I mean, was there any room for thoughts like, if I do get out of this, I am so going to change my life? Or was there any of that going on, or was that too far away?
Not so much of that, because it was more that I was looking back going, gosh, do I have any regrets? And I didn't dwell on this too much, but I did have a moment where I was thinking this, and that was when I thought, gosh, I wish I hadn't spent so much of my life being afraid of things. Like, how pointless was that? What a waste of time. And so I guess because I wasn't sure I was going to get out, it was more of like a looking back and going, oh, you idiot.
They say we only get 2 lives, and the most useful of which is the second one. Once we realise the first one is over, and that was the thing there, wasn't it?
I love that.
And so with the third night and fourth day. So would this be your last night?
This is the last night.
You were found on the fourth day.
Yeah.
Nightfall, day 3. Claire, tell us about that. Tell us about how you were. I hear about your face was sunken. You were dehydrated. It was all getting very, very, very serious and very desperate by that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Last night, that was the moment I was really. That afternoon, I'd realised that I might die there, but that night, I think I accepted it for the first time, and it was a really calm night. And I remember that the whole desert felt really still, and I don't know if it was just because of my state of mind or not, but everything just felt really peaceful and really calm. And that was the night I thought, okay, you know what, this is it for me. And, you know, there could be worse places to end up and to sort of breathe your last breath. I sort of, in a weird way, I felt kind of grateful, like, okay, well, if this has to happen, then I'm glad it's going to happen here. So I sort of went to sleep that night just thinking, okay, this is it.
So you did go to sleep, and did you try and stay awake, or were you not happy, but were you accepting of drifting off, literally drifting off?
It was more like, you know what, just I'm not going to fight this as much anymore.
Maybe that helped.
I think that helped. Yeah, it was because the previous 3 days had just been fighting and fighting and fighting against all the elements and my mindset as well.
Did you pray? Did you talk to anyone or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not religious, but I would say I'm spiritual. I did pray. I remember there were a lot of shooting stars. I would make wishes on each of them.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of things, if you don't mind sharing those with us?
Just that I would get out. Right. Just really hoping that I would get out, and then I would have another chance to live life, and yeah, just that was the soul prayer, the soul wish, just to get out.
Now, you'd made a flag.
Yeah.
Tell us about how come you thought to make a flag. Had you read up on survival? Because you like hiking, you're an enthusiastic hiker, and you know about the dangers of hiking, not to the extent that which you do now. But tell us about the flag that you made.
Yeah, well, it was a sunshade that I'd made on the second day using the hiking stick, and I had grabbed another branch that was nearby, got my hair tie out, I made it into a cross, and then I had a plastic bag that I put across it, and I was holding that up every day to keep the sun off me, but eventually it became a flag. It became a signal.
All right. Okay. So day 4 happens. You're still around.
I'm still around. Yeah.
How did you? Were you expecting to wake up? How did you feel when you woke up? What hurt? What didn't hurt? Were you numb to everything?
Everything hurt. I mean, if you imagine when you sit down for too long and you sort of, your bum falls asleep and you get kind of really that sore feeling. I had that through my entire body because I hadn't been able to roll over or move or anything. Everything hurt. I felt so weak, but I was like, okay, I've survived another night. Can I do another 24 hours? I don't know. And I started to record this in another message, and then my camera died. And I think that was another piece of kind of hope that I was clinging to that just kind of died as well. And I thought, well, I've got nothing left now. It's just me out here. So I started to kind of drift in and out of consciousness. I was too tired at this point to hold my sunshade up, so I just sort of draped it over the top of me and just lay there in the heat.
Was day 4 significantly different to the other 3 days, do you think?
I think, yeah, that was me at my weakest, definitely.
But if you're drifting in and out of consciousness, has that happened before?
No.
Okay.
No.
So that was a serious sort of
that was the
deterioration of
the dehydration,
and vital organs and things like that.
Yeah.
Shutting down.
Yeah.
So how come you're here?
Well, during my sort of unconscious revelry, I heard a voice come out of the sky, which kind of woke me back up, and it was a search helicopter. And then I heard them say, "We're looking for a missing hiker," and I knew I had to get their attention somehow. But I just couldn't. I couldn't believe that this was happening because I just accepted that it wasn't going to happen. So. And the funny thing was, I wasn't actually sure it was me they were looking for. I just thought, they're looking for a hiker. Well, this is great. Maybe they'll find me as well.
I'm lost too.
Oh,
exactly. No, there's more than one of us.
It literally went through my mind. And so they came over, but I couldn't see them. I could just hear them. And then the sound kind of got quieter and quieter, and then it disappeared and it was gone. And I thought, please come back, please come back. And then I heard it came back again a little while later. So I'm screaming, of course, and I'm waving this flag, but they can't see me down there. And so sure enough, I heard them say my name this time. And this was like, oh my God. But then again, it got quieter and then they left. And I thought, they're not even looking here. They're going to be looking on the trail, I guess. So I then kind of reinforced my sunshade, my flag. I put my T-shirt on it, put my hat on it. I made it as big as I could just in case they came back. And then they did. They came back. And this time I waved that thing as high up as I could reach. It was so painful and as hard as I could wave it. And the guys, they said they saw a movement. They thought it was like a plastic bag blowing around in the valley below. But something made the deputy Manny, made him get his binoculars out and go, I just want to go back and check. So they went back and he checked and he said, that's the hiker. And it just makes like my neck, like the hairs on the back of my neck stand up when I think of it, because it could so easily have not happened that way.
Okay. Can you expedite the next hour or couple of hours for us?
Yeah, so I heard them say the words, we see you, we're going to come and get you. And then I just went into shock because I thought I wasn't expecting to live and now I will. And I had to kind of come to terms with it. So the guys had to find somewhere to land. Then they had to hike down to get to me. And they found me. They said that they had actually gone out looking for a body. They were just amazed to find me. I was sort of joking around, taking the piss, and they were like, this is insane. Like, this is unheard of. What is this situation? And I was like, this is crazy. So they called in reinforcements, got me on a stretcher. They had to roll me to get me on the stretcher, which was so awful. But yeah, they got me out of there.
Now, look, we've all had good news. We've all been fortunate enough to be on the end of good news, but we've never experienced news like that, any of us. I mean, what's that like?
I mean, I will never forget the words, we see you, we're going to come and get you. Like, those are so burned in my brain. But the ecstatic feelings that I had, like when I was making jokes with them, and even when they were trying to come down to me, and they were struggling to clamber down the boulders, and they went, how did you get down there? And I was like, the hard way. And they were like, why are you making jokes for? I said, you don't understand, this is the best day of my life. I've never been so happy. So it was glorious.
All right. And you're now married to one of them. That's how Hollywood would have it.
That's how Hollywood have it. I don't think their wives and girlfriends would appreciate that.
All right. Okay. So listen. I mean, there's a whole other. There's a parallel story to this as well, isn't there? Which is what getting away from city life to go to what you think is paradise, and then the two sort of meeting somewhere in the ether, and one being a mirror to the other, but perhaps not exactly how you expected it to be. And we're out of time, but God, what a story! Never heard a story like that before. Have you?
I want the book.
You can. Would you sign it?
Can I just ask you one question? So the book's called "Things I Learned from Falling."
Yeah.
Like, what's the top thing you learned?
Ooh, that's it. I think the most profoundly changing thing I learned was that the fears that were holding me back before, I made them up. They're not real. They're things that had come from my imagination, which means that I can actually take control back from them.
Unimagine them.
The Chris Evans Breakfast Show with Sky.